Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu, pakhair agale, ni hao, chunushumme, washmale. Ohai gozaimasu. Guten Morgen. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna mucho gracias, swabia, balli kare aaya. Hoş geldin and I say Huyamura Chivatochi Hajot Kalimera. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, since it happens to be Friday, so Jummah Mubarak to each and everybody who's actually tuned in, or even if you're not tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, we hope and pray that you guys are doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum, kaisi hain aap?
Walaikum assalam, thank you so much for introducing me. Jummah Mubarak to you and everyone out there. And since it's very, I would say festive Jummah, because whenever there is rain, I feel that...
spiritual ho jata hai.
Yes, because obviously rain is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially for a region like Pakistan or subcontinent or South Asia, because we don't get to witness that much of a rain. Instead, we get to witness a lot of sun, right? And September is extremely anomalous and hot and humid, and we are perplexed and we are trying to figure out that what sort of weather is going on. Is it still summer? Is it a transition towards the autumn? Or maybe this is, what do you call it?
More hot in November.
Post-monsoon, I would say, because the humidity levels haven't dropped as of yet, because yesterday it was pretty much humid in the first place. But having said so, Shahzad, since you were also brought up in Islamabad and you are pretty well aware of the landscapes here, so whenever there is a rain, I know that you want to have pakoras and tea and whatnot, but which is your favorite spot which you would like to enjoy whenever there is a rain in Islamabad?
I mean, so, you know, with passing years, obviously the locality changed, you know. So imagine that, you know, if while we were growing up, you know, so our parents, you know, when we weren't able to drive and anything, you know, so our parents would take us towards Magla Hills or probably the F9 park, you know, whenever the weather was lovely, or probably to a local park, because over here in Islamabad, every sector has a park, you know, so that's something which is beautiful. But then, you know, when we were able to drive, then that was... Jungle Spot was the place for us to go, because they had some amazing samosas over there with a cup of tea. But then later on, you know, when we grew up a little more and joined PTV, you know, so then there's this Trail 5 place where we get some amazing potato pakoras, you know, and that, so I think pakoras have always been very common with us. But now that we have matured, that we have grown up, I think towards the end of the night, you know, somewhat around 11:30 to 12, you know, what happens is that I feel like going for a drive in Islamabad, because earlier that's exactly how you would feel probably in 2005 till 8 or 9 when we were going to university, because there was hardly any traffic in Islamabad. But now, you know, there's too much traffic, so great or a good, you know, drive at night, you know, so with some of your favorite musicians, I think is something which I look forward to. And that's exactly what I did last night as well, because the weather's now changing and I could feel that, okay, you know, we're coming back to the old Islamabad, and that's something which actually kept us excited. Had the matka tea over here from F6 and then drove back home listening to my favorite music, and I think I had the best night.
Right, wonderful. And I love how you connected your driving, what do you call, the spots with the skies and not so clear skies in the first place, because obviously the cloudy skies in Islamabad, and that too sitting in the PTV gives you a very, I would say, spiritual and very resonating feeling in the first place. We can witness the beauty of Magala, the trails and the clouds and the sky and the nature, the trees, flowers, birds, whatnot. And I think this is something that sometimes we take for granted a lot, and we should not take it. We should be extremely thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can witness the skies from here in the first place.
Exactly. And in addition to that, I believe that, you know, when we talk about how, you know, our life gets so amazing, you know, when we talk about rain and blessing of Allah Almighty, I think there's one more blessing that we really need to celebrate more, and that that's the women of our household. So imagine that, you know, that every time you go back home, you see your mother, you know, there will always be a smile on your face. Your mother won't let you down, you know, for no matter what happens, you know, she'll always be there to watch your back, you know, may it be your sisters, your wife, your daughters. And certainly, you know, as I'm not going to label myself as the man of the house, but, you know, as an individual, you know, or as a family member, I've always kind of thought about that, you know, that we really need to kind of pave way for our daughters and sisters to make sure that they kind of achieve whatever they have in their minds. So imagine that even if we talk about Pakistan Army, Air Force, Navy, even if we talk about bureaucracy, even if we talk about politics, even if we talk about engineering, we talk about any walk of life now over here in Pakistan, we do see that alhamdulillah women are doing wonderfully well. May it be anchoring, may it be presenting.
Thank you.
You know, so it's always wonderful to see women, you know, paving way. But imagine that, you know, just when I was a kid, I thought about, okay, you know, it will be fun to go to space, but that's something which, you know, we hardly figure out, because I do know that there are a few women, but it was very rare to see over here that, you know, okay, whether, you know, any lady from Pakistan will be making her way to space. I think that's something which is very exciting for me today, because ladies and gentlemen, we are certainly going to be joined by that one amazing individual over here on our show. But before we kind of, you know, introduce her, you know, Pakistan Television conducted a brief interview of hers. So please go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, the first astronaut from Pakistan, who happens to be Miss Namira Salim. She's going to be on our screens today, and we will be asking her a lot of questions. So let's go, let's take a good look at this interview first, and then we'll carry on.
I was born in Pakistan with a dream to go to space, and I always say that space makes my DNA. Basically, when I was a little girl, I used to tell my parents that I didn't want toys, and I used to cry, and I used to tell my parents to send me to space. When I was a teenager, I confidently announced to my cousins and friends that I would grow up to become an astronaut. I had no idea how I would become an astronaut, because I used to read stories about women who were American and who were NASA astronauts, and I used to wonder how, as a non-American citizen, I could go to space, because we didn't have a human spaceflight program, and we still don't. But I'm lucky that I'm born in the age of new space, which is called the new space age, in other words. So what's happened is that our space industry has now converted it into a commercial space industry. Due to that, space is now private, and it's accessible to all sectors, including dreamers. So I found out very early in the game, in 2005, that the first private spaceship that went to space and won the $10 million Ansari X Prize was licensed by Sir Richard Branson's company called Virgin Galactic. And they were actually beginning to sell tickets for private citizens to go to space. So as a result, I contacted them, and it was very early. They had not even set up offices. And I told them that I would buy the ticket on the condition that I would be the first Pakistani to go to space with them. They became the first private space line of the world. It's been a long journey of 17 years. They built a fleet of spaceships and motherships. And now the dream is within grasp, because my space flight is planned for the 5th of October, inshallah. And I'm really looking forward to going. And the spaceship will be leaving from Spaceport America in the state of New Mexico in the US. And I'm here in Pakistan to announce my space flight officially. And I'm very grateful to the nation for all the support I'm getting, for the highest of quarters, and the media support, the social media support. And I'm really looking forward to raising the flag in space for Pakistan, and inspiring all girls to reach for the stars and the youth to reach for the stars. I was introduced to the nation.
And that's wonderful, because I sort of remember Iqbal's one of the verse that Sitaro se aage jahan aur bhi hai, right? And I think it's a matter of pride for us as a woman that a Pakistani woman has dreamed such a huge thing, because intergalactic travel is going to be a next big thing. And someone was thinking about it in the start of this century. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Miss Namira Salim, who happens to be first Pakistani to reach the North Pole in 2007. She also has the honor of being a first Pakistani to reach the South Pole in 2008, and first Asian to skydive Mount Everest in 2008. And these are some of the, I would like to recall, feathers that she has in her cap, and obviously she has achieved a lot more, and I think she's the best person which can define how the feminization of the space is happening in the first place, because obviously she is the one of the first few Pakistani, or I would say first Pakistani to be traveling to the space.
Exactly.
And Shahzad, as I would like to recall it here, because space is something that has fascinated me so much, right? The cosmos, the galaxies, the stars and whatnot, and it's a joint venture of humanity. And I love how she defines it, that that can be a sustainable tool where we can achieve the peace. That too on the earth.
Exactly, and we would certainly want to ask her this question, but you know, while you're, because we are introducing her, you know, so I would like, I would want to remind everybody that she happens to be the honorary ambassador for Pakistan and honorary council of Pakistan to the Principality of Monaco. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have been joined by Ms. Namira Salim. Hello Namira, Assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Good morning, Assalamu alaikum. Fine, thanks.
First of all, we are very excited over here, and it's a moment of pride, immense pride and honor for us that you've taken out time for being with us and to kind of inspire and kind of give all of those future generations a goal to kind of look forward to. So very quickly, because we have shared that smaller clip, which you recorded earlier with Pakistan Television, let me ask you that that in 2005, we as students were looking forward to which university to go to. And you certainly on the other end were looking to go to space. How did you get that sort of awareness and that too at, really early?
Well, like I've always said, I was born with this inner knowing or some kind of a belief that I would go to space, and I really held on to this dream very strongly. And nothing, could actually deter me from going to space. And when I was a child, I used to tell my parents that I want to go to space. I used to cry. I used to tell them that I don't want toys. By the time I was a teenager, I finished my matriculate in Pakistan. I told everybody in my family that I would become an astronaut. Then by the time I finished my high school, I did that. I made the same announcement, and I tried to even pursue science education for some time, thinking that I would need that to become an astronaut. But in the end, I realized that, I have to just follow my passion, and I'm more of a creative person. So I just went into commerce and, more creative studies. And the way it happened was that we are now at the advent of the new space age, where space tourism becomes a reality for us and for everyone who wants to go to space. So I was just lucky that, in 2006, in fact, in 2004-05, Richard Branson announced that he would be licensing the technology of the first private spaceship that went to space and won the $10 million prize to create a fleet of spaceships and motherships so that everybody could go to space. So that was the moment when I called them and I said, listen, I'm ready and I want to be the first Pakistani and I want to buy this ticket.
And we're super proud of you.
That's
But,
wonderful.
very quickly for our greater audiences, because we go out in 47 different countries, what I wanted to know was that ever since we were growing up and we would hear about NASA or the Russian Space Agency or any other space agency, we would think that okay, it's always a very governmental process, so the government's going to pick up on those perfect individuals who will probably be landing on moon probably, because that's where we have landed. Now we do have examples where rovers have landed on Mars and whatnot. So coming down to understanding of you being an astronaut, how would you explain it to our audiences at large? What sort of an astronaut are you?
Yeah, so that's what I said. This is commercial space tourism. So we are astronauts because anyone who participates in a flight as a member, which is called a crew member, is defined as an astronaut. So we will get our astronaut wings. It's just that we are going privately. We are not going with a space agency. And that's because this is space tourism. It's not a governmental human spaceflight program, which does not exist in Pakistan until now. So I used to also think while I was growing up that, I'm not an American citizen and I wouldn't be able to go with NASA. I had no idea how I would do it, but I just had this, dream that stayed with me forever, and I believed in it. And it's very, very strange and ironic that we had the birth of the new space age, during which people are going commercially to space. Even the NASA astronauts today are not going with NASA to space. They are enrolled with NASA, but they use SpaceX rockets, which are commercial rockets. Right. So NASA finished its space shuttle program many years ago, and that's because they knew that the commercial space industry will thrive, and we will have contractors with NASA and providers for space launch privately. So that's what's happening. We are all going privately to space now.
Wow.
Right. And thank you for very succinctly putting it out there, Ms. Namira. But obviously, I was watching your CV, and you have a very impressive CV to your name, and where you actually studied the business administration, and then you shifted to international relations, which is a very interesting choice of the field in the first place. But when you went to North Pole and South Pole, and obviously these poles we imagine in the movies because because the Santa Claus is coming from there. But how was your experience there? Because whenever you interact with such infinite beings and the cosmos and whatnot, so you come to reflect on your existence very differently, right? You are reminded of the nothingness of the man and how huge is this universe and in this galaxy that you can't even recount that, and Earth is so small, and then we are living in this place. So how did you reflect it on your existence back at those days?
Yes, the poles were also like, in a way they reminded me of going to space, like especially the South Pole, which is like the coldest, windiest, and, a very, very harsh kind of environment. The planet, it seems like its own planet because no life can exist at the South Pole. It's so cold there. And in a way, it was like camping in the middle of nowhere on ice and, feeling that way because, like I said, there's no life that can exist there. So it was like going to these three poles was like my way of reaching the farthest ends of the world before I went to space, just to get a taste of it because the space flight that I'm going on took 17 years to develop. So, I had to do something on Earth worthwhile to keep inspiring young girls and, youth. And then when I went for my skydive over Mount Everest, that was very interesting because I was actually free falling at the speed of 153 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
But it really felt like I was stationary in the sky. I did not feel like I was falling or descending at that speed. I really felt that I was stationary, I was floating. So it was like experiencing zero gravity in a way. And that's because there was no relative distance. There was nothing around me in the sky.
And what I wanted to ask you was, so it's great that you've started to prepare yourself already, so that you would be very well aware of the conditions. But are there any prerequisites for a flight which took 17 years to kind of establish, or is it just like a commercial airline that you buy the ticket, you sit in a rocket and that's it, you're going? So how do you prepare yourself?
Or
what are the
acclimatize
prerequisites?
yourself, yes.
Well, of course, there is preparation. We did have one training long time back. It was a complete simulation of the space flight.
Right.
So it was in the world's largest and the most high performance simulator in the US.
Right.
And in that we experienced the entire, rocket motor ignition, floating in zero gravity, then coming back into the atmosphere and landing. And similarly, before the space flight on the 5th of October, inshallah, we will have a 3-day training.
Wow.
And now the facility is even more sophisticated because Virgin Galactic is the only company in the world that has a private spaceport, which is extremely sophisticated, and it's like the ultimate customer experience and, really going to space in luxury. Wow. So we have these amazing, I'm not privy to the training at this time, but it's going to be like the actual space flight. So 3 days of rigorous training, and then we have the space flight. And every day I'll be releasing information about my training and my space flight. So it'll be like a media pack that I'll be putting up on a website that can be accessed. So everybody can be part of this journey and see what I'm training and what I'm doing. Wow. I've just done my medicals, which are all fine, alhamdulillah. And I'm also preparing otherwise, by going to the gym every day. So you just need to be generally fit. It's not very heavy on the body because our spaceship is not going to launch from ground up. It's going to be released from 50,000 feet by the mothership. So that's a lot easier on the body.
Wonderful.
Right. And that's very interesting, and we are really, really proud of your achievements, Ms. Salim. But I would also like to ask you this question, since you call yourself, you are a space diplomat, right? And you also talk about how the space can be used as a sustainable tool for the peacemaking on the Earth. And yesterday we also had the International Peace Day. But considering the fact that if you analyze the environment around you, so developed countries, they're already in the race for space exploration, they are sending them rovers and whatnot. So how do you think this idea can be built upon, where we can utilize the space as a joint, I would say, heritage of the mankind, where we can work for the peace? Because whenever we talk about the peace, conflict is another paradox that is extremely closely attached to it. So please go ahead.
Because when we talk about the seas or the moon or the sun, or the space, we take it as a global common. But when it comes down to exploration and whichever country is exploring it, obviously they might kind of dictate the conditions.
There is a space race going on. I mean, there's no denying this fact. So please go ahead.
Well, any space race that may be going on is for the betterment of humanity. So if countries are trying to get out there and form bases, like for example, NASA is planning to form a multilateral base on the moon. So of course it will do good for us, on Earth. But the whole point is that what you're talking about is, related to a great paradigm shift and impact that happens, that occurs on the mind of astronauts when they go to space and they see the Earth from space, with the borders and boundaries dissipate, like they disappear. Because as you go further and further into space and you look back, those political boundaries that are man-made don't exist. So that is what creates that whole paradigm shift, that we are one humanity, one world in a million,
Right.
in a vast cosmos.
True.
And anyone who goes to space comes back with that paradigm shift. And when they come back, they want to make peace on Earth. So nobody has done that. But I have a non-profit called Space Trust.
Yep.
Right.
And I have been raising awareness for this paradigm shift and how it will be now accessible to a lot of people, because we are in the new space age and more people will get to go to space as the prices of these tickets come down.
Right.
So since space is now accessible to all sectors, we need to open it to politicians and world leaders.
Right.
And we need to take them up there, have a peace summit, and let them see the world from there, so that they think of the world in a different way and beyond political boundaries.
I mean,
So
people.
being a thought leader in space diplomacy, I've done a lot of work with the UN, and we are actually sending the first satellite for my nonprofit to space, which will be student built, and it will carry peace messages to space, just to promote this whole concept.
Right. And Madam, next month you are also making the space flight history, right? And you are going to have the suborbital space, and you're going back and forth. So can you explain us this concept? What does the suborbital travel means in the first place? Because we are the laymen, we are sitting on the Earth, and we're very fascinated by your adventures and ventures to the space in the first place.
Yes, so basically, people who are going to the International Space Station are going on orbital flights. They stay there for a very long time. That's because those flights are going around the Earth in low Earth orbit. But what we are doing is, these are normally very short flights. It takes about 9 to 11 minutes to make a suborbital flight. So basically, you take off from Earth, and then you break the atmosphere and you float in zero gravity for 5 minutes. And then you come back into the atmosphere and you land on Earth. So this is called a suborbital arc, which means we are not going around the Earth, we are breaking the orbit and coming back on Earth. So these are shorter flights, but because of the experience Virgin has created for us, this will be like a really much longer experience. Instead of being like a 9-minute flight,
Right.
it's going to, take us up and it'll take over an hour. So our cabins are very big and very comfortable, and we get to unbuckle our seats and float in the, zero gravity, and do some, nice fun things like somersaults, or, other things, look out the window and experience that paradigm shift that astronauts have experienced since the birth of human spaceflight. So that is the difference.
Yeah, and whenever you experience that, we would lucky, in fact, kind of share your visuals over here as well with our people. But there's quite a lot more to this as well. So imagine that, that you being the ambassador, the honorary ambassador for Pakistan, I think have contributed towards PACO as well. So, when we talk about your experiences based on space and space travel, you were that first individual who made sure that SPARCO and the Russian Space Agency are going to come together and talk about it as well. How do you think that with all of that experience under your belt, you will be able to contribute towards the space program over here in Pakistan, if there's any?
Yes, of course. I've tried my best. In the beginning, SPARCO used to invite me to a lot of events, and I've contributed in a big way, I think, to SPARCO. As Honorary Consul of Pakistan to Monaco, which I was between 2011 and 2013.
Right.
And after that, the new government that came, they just, decided to change, put a hold on all the honorary consuls around the world, and they removed all of them, which was very, very undiplomatic, because this is an honorary position. It's not politically motivated or politically, to be interfered with.
Right.
So, the position is not there anymore, but there is no honorary consul there, and I do hope to reinstate it, because I think I'm the best ambassador for Pakistan in Monaco, at least.
And we think the same way as well.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we think the same way.
Yes, thank you. So at that time,
Sure, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
So at that time, I introduced SPARCO to Thales Alenia Group, which is the largest manufacturers of space systems in Europe. The Thales Group, they came to Pakistan, and they signed some kind of an agreement, and they are doing some projects together on the technological level. And then after that, I was not an honorary consul, but when I founded Space Trust in Monaco in 2015 with the government in the presence of the prince, there was a big event. And over there, I did invite the, chairman of SAPARCO. And Russian Space Agency, one of the top officials was there, like Deputy Director General for International Affairs. So I did introduce them. I was requested to create a meeting between the two agencies, and I did. And they were introduced to, have future cooperation together. I have no idea what happened, but I hear that until now, it's been so many years, I don't think that they've even signed an MOU. So you see, we need to open up. That's the whole point. In Pakistan, yes, we are very, very behind when it comes to the space, sector. Yes. We need to learn from new space nations like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, etc., and how they have, basically tapped into the commercialization of space to further and to promote their space programs and to send their astronauts to space commercially. So we are really behind.
And Ms. Salim, you also have a very interesting, I would like to say, habit or creative proclivities where you collect stones collected from the space and you convert them into the jewelry, right? So how did this proclivities develop? Because that's a very interesting concept in the first place. We do see a lot of jewelries in the market, in the stores, but having those stones that are collected from the space is very unique and different.
No, they are not collected from space. Okay. The stones are from Earth, but pictures of my jewelry has gone to space. And some of my jewelry will go to space. So that is why I say that they are jewels from space or jewels for the stars. They are inspired by the constellations of the night sky. And it was my father who first pointed me to the pole star and the constellations of the night sky, because he was in the army and he showed me how to navigate the night sky, how to find the constellations.
Oh, wonderful.
And that inspired my jewelry. So. And my spaceflight is a tribute to my father. Had he not pointed me to the pole star, I would have never reached the 3 poles of the world as the first Pakistani, and also never been to space. Wonderful. So he was the one who bought me my first telescope also.
Wonderful. And in addition to that, obviously, since, Haja has now actually asked you about that, so you happen to be the founder of Namira Decorative Arts in Monaco as well. So, so rather, you focusing on where you want to travel in space, you focusing on how countries can come together in space commercialization in the new age of space. There's this artistic side of yours, which we would certainly want to kind of share with our audiences out there. So, so don't you think that, the space work keeps you so busy? How do you figure out that, okay, I need to do this too as well, as a hobby or, for the people out there?
Well, the collection in Monaco was created much before my involvement with the space industry. It was between 1998 onwards. So I do have that collection, and it's already been presented to royal family members between the UAE and Monaco and several heads of state. It was not a commercial thing. It was just a passion, and I created very unique objects and art objects and collectibles. So. That was that, but then what's come out of it is my jewelry line, which is inspired by the night sky, and that is what I'll be promoting in future. So I did find time for that, and basically that and Space Trust, my non-profit, that is what I mainly do.
And how were you always, so ahead of everybody else's game, so you were always on top of your game, realizing and making sure that you're going to kind of translate it into all of those practical ventures, number one. Number two, what I wanted to ask you was that, because of your, all your space activity and how you were the first and are the first astronaut from Pakistan, you have brought together so many countries, you've mobilized so many global leaders, you were able to kind of tap onto those, I think when we speak of it, people really need to kind of progress from there onwards, rather focusing just on themselves, and that's exactly what you have done. So how did you do it? And when was the time when you realized that, okay, Namira, you've done it for yourself, now let's do it for your country and for the other men out there. So how did you do it? How did you realize that, okay, I need to have a bigger goal from here onwards, rather than just me going to space, let's do it for our country, for our motherland, for other people who are actually looking forward to you.
Yeah, so basically going to space was a childhood dream. As I said, space makes my DNA. So it started with that dream. And I guess I was able to connect and make it happen. The reason for that was because I'm a very, introverted person, actually. People would not believe that. But I'm a very shy person.
Is that the reason you want to travel to space?
To enjoy the solitude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm somebody who is a loner, who lives in solitude. I don't have many friends, and when you do that, you go inward. And as I say, like solitude is about the richness within. And
Right.
that is the richness that I tapped into as a creative person. And I can tell you for sure that what they say that, what inspiration is to an artist, revelation is to a prophet. So basically, the inspiration that comes to a creative person is really very divine, and it also links you within to your divine side and your spiritual side. So I am very spiritual, and like in this journey I was able to tap into myself very deeply. So when you do that, then things just manifest, and that's what happened. And joining Virgin Galactic, basically educated me about the new space age and commercialization of space, and that is how my nonprofit came about, and it all linked together. Because I was also doing a commercial space flight. My space flight is part of the new space age, space tourism, and then from there, bringing that awareness to other people, to governments, to world leaders, as to how they can also be part of this, because space is open to all sectors. So I've been advocating as a space diplomat that space diplomacy should be, made, should reach all the governments and world leaders. And that is what I'm trying to promote through this new project, the satellite that we're going to send to space. So we need to connect multilateral, have multilateral support from different countries so that we have the peace messages, we make the governments understand, the governments can actually follow a program to understand what the new space age is. It's very important to educate people because people have no idea what's happening in the space industry.
Exactly.
So it's all interconnected, really.
And thank you so much, Namira, and we wish you best of luck for your journey on the 5th of, set to, go on the 5th of October. So please make sure that you come back safely alongside all those other passengers you have with you, being the first astronaut from Pakistan. We're super proud of you. Allah पाक आपको खैरियत से लेके जाए और खैरियत से लेके आए. हम सब पूरा पाकिस्तान आपके लिए दुआ गो है.
Inshallah, and I have one last thing to say.
Sure.
I want to thank the nation, the government, and all those who supported me, handed me over the flag. But I have a song also, and my biggest talent is a musical talent, a singing talent. So please do play that at some point.
If
It's
you want to
called Follow
sing
Me
a
to
few
the
lines,
Moon.
you're free to
No.
do that.
No, just, I mean, put a link to my song somewhere. It's called Follow Me to the Moon, and it'll inspire everyone to, go to space with me. I mean, they'll be part of my journey.
Right.
Inshallah, we
Okay,
will.
So
And
it's
when
an
you are in space,
educational,
yes,
it's
shout
an
out loud,
educational
Pakistan
song about all
Zindabad.
that. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I said that, whenever you're in space, you shout out loud, Pakistan Zindabad, all right? We're looking forward to
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Sure, but this song will educate people about all that we've been talking about. So please do, play it. And I encourage everyone to watch Follow Me to the Moon.
Sure. We will definitely do that. And thank you so much, Ms. Namira, for being here and for having this conversation. And quickly, we're going on a short break. And after we come back, let's explore some oceans because we've already explored the skies, right? So don't go anywhere.
Let's do it.
Wonderful, and welcome back. And before we go on to the break, we were alluding to the fact that our wonderful Pakistani woman is exploring the skies, and now it's time that we talk about the blue economy and the oceans, because obviously, why not? Because this is the common good, and we want to have some sort of efforts where we can establish or use the natural resources for a common good. So without any further ado, we would like to introduce our guest, because he's going to talk about how Pakistan can explore the blue economy, and that through to the Special Investment Facilitation Council. And obviously, it's a very one window process where there's a lot of investment opportunities available in the Pakistan. So without any further ado, we're very glad that we have been joined by CEO of the RCIMLP Pakistan, Muslim bin Akil. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. So, you happen to be the Chief Executive Officer of Research Center for International Maritime Law, and it's wonderful to have you over here. But we would want people to understand what Special Investment Facilitation Council is, and then we'll move on to how do you think that you can contribute as the CEO RCIMLP Pakistan, please.
Definitely, thank you so much for having me here. It's my privilege to be here. SIFC, that is the novel initiative by the Honorable Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan, which is headed by the Honorable Prime Minister of Pakistan, is a wonderful initiative, I must say. That is in order to facilitate the business and the declining economy of Pakistan. Like there are key segments that have been highlighted into the SIFC program, and they are basically purposely tailored for the purpose that the foreign direct investment must come to Pakistan, and one window operation be given to all those investors coming to Pakistan, and they should have an easy access to establish their business over here.
Right.
While when we are talking about the research center and the maritime and the blue economy, I would refer it to blue economy as the sustainable use of the ocean resources.
Right.
Pakistan, when I see all over the world, has got huge immense potential,
Right.
and in my humble view and experience, I have been to different countries where the state institutes are very much interested towards the maritime sector of Pakistan, because it has totally remained untapped.
Yes, and your institute has released a report which has documented how we can explore the potential of the blue economy, and that too in the context of SIFC in Pakistan. And obviously Pakistan has Gwadar, which is a deep sea port, right? It has such a huge natural advantage. So what are some of the very talking points of that report that you would like to highlight in the first place?
Thank you very much for highlighting that report. And that report was made when I was looking into SIFC, and it was in its initial stages. And there were key sectors, but that excluded the maritime sector, which I was astonished to see that, which is a $1 trillion industry and is not included over here in the SIFC program. So we formulated a report in which we highlighted not only the macro level strategies and policies, but the micro level also, where we can give the investors, the entrepreneurs who come over here to Pakistan to invest in blue economy, to tailorize their investment to different projects, and where we can support and rehabilitate those confidence which the foreign entrepreneurs wanted to have over here in Pakistan. That includes a few areas I would like to highlight. That includes the fishery industry, that is one of the major industry, shipbuilding and shipbreaking, coastal tourism, aquaculture. These all are the things in which different projects can be made, and different investment models can be put in front of the foreign investors, in which they can accordingly to their purpose can invest.
But that's exactly what I wanted to ask. So imagine when we speak of areas, in terms of blue economy or in its perspective, so when we speak of fishery or shipbuilding or shipwrecking or the aquaculture, all of this has existed. So it's not that this is the very first time that we're going to tap on this. But unfortunately, what I've seen is, because I've lived in Karachi myself, so I was very well aware of how the shipwreckage industry actually kind of nose dipped. So why do you think that they were failures? And how do you think that now for people to come in and invest, there won't be any failures to look forward to, unfortunately?
Sir, it's a very good question that have been raised from your side.
Thank you. That's what I'm known for.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's a principle of governance and policy when you are correlating them, law, governance, policy, because they are the same side of the same coin.
And you work on it, right?
Yes. And when we correlate them, the very first important thing is that how do you create a business conducive culture into the country in which you are asking for investment.
True.
Number two is the strength of that policy, that how long it is going to run. Number third is the bureaucratic hurdle which people foresee, and they are like depreciated for coming towards it. Like for example, we have number of policies that have already been working in Pakistan in sectors of blue economy or any other sector we say. But when we talk about SIFC, the diversity and inclusion of different diaspora and different institutes into a single body is now giving a commitment. Like now these policies are having strength and they will continue in further pursuance. So that is something, that is the point where I feel that SIFC is going to be, inshallah, an initiative that is going to be controlling, catering the surging imports and the declining economy of Pakistan.
It's great, and it's assuring too as well. But
yes,
what we really need to kind of consider over here is that, going back to my same question and now linking it with, the Special Investment Facilitation Council. Now, what happens over here is, unfortunately, that we've seen that, okay, once the policy is being made, because you spoke about bureaucratic hurdles, I still believe that, they might still exist, for people who are out there, who certainly do not want the betterment for Pakistan. Unfortunately, we've had such people working within our own system. And Alhamdulillah, it's a great initiative. And I would literally want to thank the Chief of Army Staff, that because under his auspices, we were able to kind of witness history in the making. But it certainly needs continuity. And if we talk about continuity, we're not talking about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We're talking about 100 years. Because if we want a developed economy, that's how our policy making needs to be. That's how our laws need to be in place. So you who make sure that, that who's going to talk about the laws and that too of maritime, how do you think that it's going to be a conducive policy which is going to include people from all over the globe?
Sir, well, when we talk about the blue economy sector and the initiatives like SIFC, it is very important to understand that we have to include the business community in the decision-making procedures. We have to engage our entrepreneurs, not only from Pakistan, but also from different countries.
People who are willing to invest.
Who are willing to invest, plus they are not only investing, but they are having a say in the decision-making process. So that is the only way out that we can cater the bureaucratic red tapeism we term. It's not. I'm not saying that the bureaucrats are not working, but sometimes it comes out to be lethargic, a lengthy process.
Yeah, it's a lengthy process.
It's a lengthy process. For example, if I'm a businessman, exactly, it happens, and that is why we have been probably suffering from. But if I'm a businessman and if I have a hearsay and if I have my policy chances of coming into execution that can do the ease of doing business of the particular sector, I believe that this thing is going to mitigate the challenge we are talking about, sir.
Right.
And how do you see it in the long term as well? Now, that's something which we really need to kind of talk about, because what happens is that once you do know that, okay, that there's this chain of command which is going to take place, and then literally after 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, we do see the changes happening. May it be politically, may it be, economically, may it be globally, we do see that. And with changes, within the economic sector, within the political sector, we do see that there will certainly be an impact on whatever policy we bring up, right?
True.
So how do you see that, okay, we are going to negate that impact by creating such policies which are going to be conducive for next 5 decades?
So having policies that are conducive for next 5 decades needs a powerful, strengthened legal skeleton. For example, when we are talking about the SIFC that is being run under the Board of Investment Act Amendment 2023, I was going through those subsections and sections where I felt that there is a still window where the reforms can be made and where the apprehensions of the business community can be catered. If you remember, on 12th September 2023, US Ambassador Donald Armand Bloom visited Gawada, and in which he has shown his keen interest. But when we are talking about the business community or the investors from United States of America, so do you think so that having the setup, the contemporary setup, is going to invest or is going to attract the investment? That is a big no. So for that purpose, we have to look into the recent amendment act that we have made into Board of Investment by the name of BOI Amendment Act 2023, and a proper strengthened legal skeleton must be made by making proper reforms, though that is made now, but still the amendments can be made, and those lags or lacunas which we see can be still addressed.
Wonderful.
Right, and we talked about the internal challenges. You spoke about red tapeism and how we need to address that, but now let's talk about some of the external challenges, right? So it is said about Gawada that whenever it will be fully functional, it is definitely going to dampen the economy of the Dubai, because Gawada is a deep sea port in the first place, right? So how do you think our state need to neutralize all of those external challenges which might create a hurdle in the actual realization of the, I would say, the blue economy and how it is linked to the SIFC in the first place?
I would answer your question from my recent visit to Qatar.
And you've been awarded, because you developed a blue skeleton.
Exactly,
sir. It was in Qatar as well, right?
Yes, sir, exactly. That was for the same reason, that was regarding the ease of doing business. And when I proposed my I named it as Blue Legal Skeleton.
Yep.
So when I introduced my Blue Legal Skeleton initiative, the Ministry of Transport, Doha, that Assistant Under Secretary was at that time Dr. Saleh bin Fatah Al-Mari, and Dr. Sulati was the Minister of Transport that time, and still he is. So they were very much interested, getting into Pakistan, using the ports, apart from the fact which we just talked about, that Gawada is a competitive port for them. But when you have a strategic position at the mouth of the largest energy producing countries, you cannot deny the importance of that. And having the misconception that for certain reasons the Gawada cannot be developed. I have been to Gawada a couple of times recently, 4 months back. I would rest assure you Gwadar is developing on a very high pace, like which I speculated before going over there. So having Gwadar developed means the regional development. We have a region developed where we can start our diplomacy. When we are talking about the international relations, diplomacy is the only thing that enhances your international relations. So having 1,010 kilometers of coastal lane, 1,003 kilometers of coastal lane, and having the best coastal tourism where the whole world wants to come, having 4 seasons, and having the world's richest resources, I don't find a reason that Gwadar wouldn't flourish.
True.
Apart from that thing, the Gulf region in particular is now having the idea that the oil story is not going to prolong very much. Now they are developing themselves, they are transforming themselves towards research and development, R&D, for which I would like appreciate Qatar for their development. I was really inspired and enthused when I see their development and their models.
True.
We need to do those things on the same grounds. We don't need to make a thing from the very scratch. Like for example, we are talking about SIFC. The same is a thing has been introduced by Qatar by the name of QFC, Qatar Financial Centers, where for the purpose of strengthening, coming to your question, for the purpose of strengthening the legal skeleton, they are having their own international courts for the dispute resolution and dispute resolution centers if the foreign investor finds any lag or difficulty in having.
Just go there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's all we require. One window solution, ladies and gentlemen, because I believe that, that's, I think some part technology has played that, that everything we need to get it sorted just over a call or probably on our phone, because it's just like branchless banking. But thank you so much, Akil, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And we look forward to having more episodes of such sort where we talk about SIFC and the initiatives taken under SIFC. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we have made sure that we are going to be in conversation with the first Pakistani astronaut, and not just that, we were in conversation with somebody who actually built up a blue legal skeleton, and that too for Qatar. And certainly we do need their expertise to come over here and apply it on the same ground so that we can actually build back better when we talk about the economy of the country, may it be the blue economy or may it be economy at large. Until next time, look after yourselves. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.